I pushed open the side gate and stepped into the backyard. Laughter floated in from the deck. White cloths, string lights, matching dresses. I clutched the small gift in both hands. Gold paper ribbon, careful fold. Fiona spotted me from the top of the steps. "Oh, Mom, you made it." Her smile flickered. "Don't bring attention. Okay, just sit somewhere out of the way. Don't make this about you." I nodded. Someone walked by and said, "Could you bring out more forks from the kitchen?" I didn't answer. I found a metal folding chair behind the drink table, the only one without cushions. A young woman with a bun and clipboard walked over carrying a tray. "Here," she said, offering a paper cup. We ran out of mugs. I looked around. Every table had ceramic, white with blue rims. I took the paper one, held it with both hands. My fingers shook slightly, not from anger, just age. I tightened my grip to steady them. The gift sat in my lap. I didn't place it on the table. Someone behind me laughed. I didn't turn. "Is that her?" someone whispered. "Fiona's mom? Thought she passed." I stared at the gift. Inside wasn't what they thought. It wasn't perfume or books or some handmade trinket. It was a cashier's check, enough for Blair's college deposit and a cushion besides. But it wouldn't leave my purse. I sipped the lukewarm coffee. Bitter. Thin. On the platform, Fiona raised her glass. "To my daughter," she beamed. "To new chapters and leaving the past behind." The crowd clapped. No one looked my way. I reached into my bag and held the envelope for a second. The seal still intact. Then I let it go. My hand dropped back to the cup. I drank. Sat still. Watched. Fiona turned to pose with Blair in front of a banner that read, "The future looks bright." A breeze passed. The napkins fluttered. I stayed seated, just another shadow behind the folding table. The toast ended. Plates scraped. Music played. Someone danced barefoot near the grass. I watched Fiona laugh as if I were invisible. But I saw Blair glance once over her shoulder, then look away. I arrived early. Parked across the street. Walked the block with the gift tucked under my arm and the camera around my neck. The school banners flapped above the entry. Class of 2025. Blue gowns, gold cords. I spotted Blair's name printed in bold on the ceremony board. Families gathered at the gate, clutching flowers and signs. I waited in line like the rest. When I reached the front, I gave my name. The young man scanned his tablet, paused. "Not seeing you here." "She's my granddaughter," I said. He started to speak again, but then looked past me. I turned. Fiona was coming down the sidewalk in heels and sunglasses, talking into her phone. She looked up, froze for half a second, then walked faster. "Hi, Mom," she said quietly, stepping between me and the gate. "They're being really strict. We had to submit names last week. I was told I know. It's just security's tight. Please don't make this a scene." She smiled at the guard. "She's not on the final list." He nodded. "Sorry, ma'am." I didn't argue. I stepped back, adjusted the strap on my camera, and looked through the black iron bars. Inside, the chairs filled quickly. Students filed into rows. I spotted Blair, cap crooked, her gown dragging slightly. I raised the camera, adjusted the focus. Someone cleared their throat behind me. I lowered the lens. I stepped onto the sidewalk, walked until I was near the parking lot, found a low concrete bench under the flagpole, sat, set the gift beside me. The bow was still tight, the paper uncreased. I watched the event from a distance, heard the muffled cheer when Blair's name was called, caught a glimpse of her climbing the stage steps. She turned, slightly looking back toward the gate, toward the crowd, toward me. Our eyes didn't meet, but she paused, then faced forward again. I stood slowly, walked to the edge of the lot. left the wrapped box on the bench, not buried, not hidden, just there. A breeze tugged at the ribbon as I walked away. I rang the bell once. Fiona opened the door with a bright smile too wide to be real. Her tone was warm, rehearsed. "You're early," she said. "Good. Blair's at practice. We'll have time to settle you in." I followed her through the foyer. Same polished floors, same oversized mirror. She pointed toward the back. "Guest house is all yours. Just through the breezeway. I had it cleaned this morning." At the door, she paused and pulled something from a drawer. A thin wristband, pale green. Laminated edges. "Wear this when you're inside," she said. "The system's set to recognize guests so doors won't lock on you by accident. Blair had it installed college friends' safety, you know." She clipped it gently around my wrist. It clicked. I looked down. Plastic snug labeled Temp 04. I rolled my sleeve over it, smiled without showing my teeth. Inside, the space was spotless, cold, almost staged. A water bottle on the counter. 2 towels folded like they were waiting for inspection. As Fiona left, she said, "Text me if you need anything. The house door stays locked after 10. Just so you know." I nodded. She didn't wait for a reply. I walked the hallway. Noticed the small black dome near the ceiling. A red dot blinked twice, paused, blinked again. The air smelled faintly of disinfectant and citrus. I sat on the edge of the bed, took off my shoes, unzipped my overnight bag and reached for the small photo case I always packed, the one with Robert's picture. Gone. I stopped moving, sifted again, unfolded everything, checked the inside zipper. Nothing. I closed the bag slowly, pressed both hands flat on top of it, didn't say a word. From outside the window, I heard the faint scrape of a chair being pulled across the patio. Fiona laughing on the phone. Her voice rising, falling, hitting notes I used to know. I walked to the mirror, straightened my collar, smoothed my hair. The wristband caught the light as I adjusted the cuff. I didn't remove it. Not yet. I pushed open the restaurant door and spotted Fiona waving from a corner booth. She didn't stand. She didn't hug. She just gestured at the seat across from her. "Perfect timing," she said. "I ordered for you." "Hope that's fine." I nodded and slid in. She talked about Blair's summer plans, the new listing. She was chasing the renovations she wanted done before the market cooled. Her voice ran without pause. Mine wasn't needed. Midway through her salad, she reached into her bag and placed a thick packet on the table. "Speaking of planning," she said lightly, "we're moving a few things into a trust. Keeps everything clean when we're older. It's just paperwork, you'll still be listed." She pushed the packet toward me with 2 fingers. Power of attorney. Property transfer. Advance medical directive. Medical rights. Durable control agreements. All stacked neatly clipped tight. My breath stilled. I didn't touch a single page. I only looked. Names printed in long lines, boxes, signatures, dates, paragraphs that said in legal terms what Fiona had stopped saying years ago. "I decide for you." I kept my eyes steady. My hands remained folded on my lap. "We don't have to do it today," she added, slicing her chicken. "Just look it over. It's all standard. You'll sign when you're ready." I nodded once. "I'll need time." "Of course," she said. But the impatience sat behind her smile, waiting. I scanned the top page again. A small detail stopped me. My name, Callan Whitlow, spelled wrong. 1 less E. A careless slip. A sign she hadn't even looked twice. She kept talking about deadlines and trust officers and how everyone is doing this now. I listened, silent, letting the words drift past like soft warnings. When the server brought the check, Fiona snatched it. "Let me handle this. Consider it a thank you for staying in the guest house. Stability is good for you." I smiled, thin and quiet. She didn't notice. We parted in the parking lot. She hugged the air near my shoulder, already on her phone, before I reached my car. That night, back in the guest house, I sat on the bed without turning on the lamp. The packet lay untouched beside me. The wristband glowed faintly in the dark. I reached for my phone, scrolled to a number I hadn't called in years, and pressed it. I drove before sunrise. No radio. No traffic. Just the steady hum of the engine carrying me 30 miles north, away from the neighborhoods where my name still meant something to a handful of people, and nothing to the one who should have known it best. The county clerk's office sat behind a row of maple trees, plain and quiet. I walked in, asked for the form, and filled out the top line without looking up. The paper felt heavier than it should. Current legal name, the clerk said. I wrote Callan Whitlow. Slow, deliberate. Requested legal name, she added. My pen hesitated. Only for a breath. Then I wrote it, Margot Ellis. A life with no past attached, no files, no records that tied me to a woman who raised Fiona through fevers and scraped knees, but somehow didn't deserve a seat at a graduation ceremony. I reached the signature line. My hand shook at the first letter. Just a tremor. I pressed harder, steadied the pen, and finished the stroke cleanly. When I slid the form across the counter, the clerk studied it, then looked at me with a small nod. You finally did it, she said. I didn't ask how she knew. Word travels in small towns, and grief leaves a mark long before paperwork does. She stamped the document, filed the copies, and handed me a temporary card. The new ID will arrive in a few weeks, Ms. Ellis. I folded the paper once and tucked it inside my bag. The name settled in my mind with a strange clarity, like a coat that had been waiting on a hook for years, unworn but familiar. Back at the guest house, the house looked the same. Curtains pulled tight. Walkway swept the wristband scanner, blinking its silent approval as I entered. Fiona's laughter echoed faintly from the main house, drifting across the patio. I didn't pause. Inside my room, I opened the drawer beside the bed. My old wallet lay there, worn from years of being held too tightly. I pulled out my ID, Callan Whitlow, printed in bold black letters, a name she had stopped using except on forms she wanted me to sign. I set it in the drawer, closed it, and pressed my palm against the wood for a moment before letting go. I showed up early, brought muffins, smiled when Fiona opened the door in a rush. Mom, she said, glancing at her watch. You didn't have to. I was already out, I said. I stayed in the kitchen while she arranged things. I cleared dishes, wiped counters. When Blair came in, I complimented her earrings. She said thank you without looking up from her phone. I watched, listened, nodded when they asked if I wanted tea. Declined. Sat politely with the wristband visible under my sleeve. Later that afternoon, I stood just outside the sunroom. Fiona was on the phone, her voice light rehearsed. No, it's still under her name, but the paperwork's ready. She'll sign it, don't worry. She always signs. She laughed once. It's just the lake place. Too old for her anyway. The laugh echoed. I didn't move. She walked past me a minute later, barely registering I was there. Heading to the office, she said, grabbing her keys. Stay for dinner if you want. I nodded. I'll help Blair with the linens. After she left, I returned to the guest wing, sat down at the desk, took off my coat, folded it across the chair, then reached into the pocket. I pulled out the list, folded once, creased from habit. I'd started it days ago, maybe weeks. What they forgot, written in my own hand. Birthday phone calls. The photo from Robert's desk. Graduation bench. Power of attorney wording. Guest house camera. Lake house title. I added the final line. Deed copy safe key signature pending. I folded the paper again. Slipped it back where it belonged. At dinner, Blair asked what I'd done that day. I said I'd walked near the water, looked at furniture stores. Still thinking of downsizing, I joked. Fiona smiled, distracted. Well, when it's all signed, we'll have more space too. I folded my napkin carefully. Edges lined, corners matched. She didn't notice. No one asked what I meant by still thinking. I poured myself a half cup of coffee. Sat back. Smiled when they laughed about something I didn't hear. Their voices rose. Mine stayed tucked behind my breath. I printed the letter, folded it twice, slipped it into the envelope. The papers were already signed copies of the deeds, the updated trust, the notarized statement of revocation. All legal, all final. I lit the wax, let it pool into the circle, pressed the old seal down and held it, just long enough for the heat to fade, just enough for the imprint to take. Then I added one line on the front in clean black ink. Forward only if I'm contacted again. Not before. I slid the envelope into the padded sleeve, sealed it, and wrote the return address in the corner. Not the guest house, not the lake house, not even the condo I hadn't visited in over a year. Just a number. P.O. Box 1187. Margot Ellis. No town, no explanation. But it would get where it needed to go. I drove to the post office just before noon, walked in, dropped the package into the overnight bin, and left without glancing back. No one stopped me. No one recognized me. At the stoplight, I looked into the rearview mirror. My hair had settled into gray weeks ago. No color, no style, just mine. My wrist still held the guest band. I slid it off slowly and left it on the passenger seat. The light turned green. I didn't head toward the lake. I didn't turn toward the guest house. I didn't text anyone. The road stretched ahead, unfamiliar, empty, waiting. I pressed the gas steady. Quiet. No rush. Somewhere behind me, a dinner would be served without my name on the place card. A form would be found unsigned. A key would be missing. But none of that was mine anymore. The wind moved through the cracked window. The list in my coat pocket rustled once. I didn't check it. I already knew what it said. The car moved forward, not faster, just farther. The ballroom glittered. Blair's name hung in gold above the stage. Seated guests clinked glasses. A string quartet played something expensive. Fiona took the mic with the ease of someone used to applause. "Thank you all for coming," she began, her voice poised. "Blair has worked so hard, and we're proud to share tonight that her future, her college, her next chapter will be funded by the family lake property. It's time that house became something new." Scattered applause followed. Some guests nodded. Others lifted their phones. Then the doors opened. A man in a gray courier jacket walked down the center aisle, cutting through the candlelight. He stepped onto the stage and held out a sealed envelope. "Urgent delivery. Legal return notice," he said. Fiona blinked, took it with one hand, still holding the mic with the other. The room quieted. She opened the flap. Inside, document rejection. Signature invalid. Owner Margot Ellis. She reread it. Twice. The mic picked up the sound of the paper shaking. A second page slipped out. A photo. The lake house porch, empty mailbox, open front door keys, left dangling from the lock. Below it, typed cleanly in black, "Ownership terminated. Occupancy revoked. Silence restored." Whispers swept the room. Blair leaned over, reading the slip over her mother's shoulder. Her expression changed. She looked up, scanning the crowd as if expecting someone to appear at the door. No one did. Fiona tried to speak, but her mouth moved without words. The mic caught only breath. The courier nodded once and stepped off the stage. The envelope now empty. The spotlight no longer hers. Blair folded the paper, set it on the podium. Her hands had stopped shaking. Fiona's had not. At the back of the room, someone opened the exit door. Cool air slipped in. No one followed it. Fiona dialed again. The line rang, then cut. Straight to voicemail. She didn't leave a message this time. She called the lawyer next. Nothing. The assistant said he was unavailable and would return the call when appropriate. No time given. No confirmation. She emailed the bank, waited for the auto reply, then drove straight there. The manager, New Young, clicked through her screen and finally said, "I'm sorry. That account no longer exists in our system. It was closed and transferred. No forwarding contact listed." Fiona gripped her bag harder. "Transferred to where I'm afraid I can't say." It was a full account migration, authorized by Margot Ellis. Fiona left without saying thank you. That afternoon, she drove to the lake house, the one she had spoken about so freely on stage, the one she had once called just paperwork. The gates were unlocked, the gravel undisturbed. She pulled into the driveway and stepped out slowly. No car, no welcome mat. The front porch creaked under her heels. She cupped her hand to the glass, but the curtains were drawn, the rooms behind them empty. The silence felt deliberate. She didn't knock. She walked the side of the house, circled the back deck, stared out at the still water. No birds, no movement, no sound of screens tapping against old windows. Back at the front door, she spotted it. On the windowsill, faded by sun, coated lightly with dust, sat a ceramic mug. Beige hairline crack across the base. The kind people stop using, but never throw away. Callan's name was faint, but still there in a script that used to be considered elegant. Inside the mug, a key. No label, no tag, no note. Fiona picked it up, held it in her palm. It was warm from the sun, but carried no answers. She looked at the door again, then turned and walked back to the car without taking the mug. I opened the cupboard, chose the plainest mug. No gold trim, no initials, no history baked into the glaze. Just ceramic. Just quiet. I filled the kettle. Waited. The wind outside tapped gently at the glass, no storm, no demand. Just presence. The kettle clicked. I poured slowly. Steam curled upward, soft and harmless. The coffee settled. No splash. No spill. I sat by the window. Pulled the mug close. Both hands around it, not to warm them, but to feel the weight. My hand didn't shake. I took a breath. Not sharp. Not held. Just mine. Outside, gulls circled over the rocks. A dog barked in the distance once. The sea moved without urgency. No eyes watched me. No one was asking questions. No one needed answers. On the shelf near the door sat a single envelope. Sealed. Thick paper. The handwriting was mine. Not to be opened unless you call me mother. It had stayed untouched for months. Still waiting. Still whole. I sipped. No bitterness. No sweetness. Just coffee. No one would call today. No one knew this number. The P.O. box was empty. The papers filed. The account under a name no one could use without asking. The guest wristband was gone. The forms were signed, mine, not forged. The house was sold. The past packed away. The silence earned. I poured the coffee. The first drop didn't spill. For once, my hand is steady.